Hi, everyone.
Разминочный доклад, чтобы
I am going to have a very light warm-up
говорить про
presentation so that you guys warm up. We are going to talk about Superset and
а,
Trino for
старший
analytics
проект
and
собственно,
cybersecurity.
я.
And
Я
let me show who I am. I'm head
делаю
of
продукт
product
Озон
safety
безопаснее,
at Ozon
вношу
FinTech.
изменения,
I
внедряю
make
коррекции и
Ozon's
часто делаю аналитику
products
для развития.
safer, and I
Там было
do what
удобнее
I
и
can in terms of
удобнее
analytics for our
работать по
services so that
проблемам,
they're more
которые
convenient and we could
горят
focus
больше
on
всего.
the issues
До этого
that are
консолидировал
the
Яндексе,
most urgent. Before I
а,
did the same in Yandex, Avito,
а,
and
про что сегодня будет?
Positive.
Сегодня будет
So now, what are we going to
посмотрим
talk
на
about
разные
today?
уровни
We
security
will
аналитики,
look
которые
at different
я прописал
levels
по
of
разделам
security
от
analytics
легкого
that
до
I have
прямо
split
суперхарда.
from the
Рассмотрим
light
самый
one
первый
to
дашборд
the
Super
super
Safety.
hell.
Посмотрим,
Then
насколько это
we'll
быстро, насколько
look
это
at our first dash in super.
интересно.
The set a dashboard, and
Что
we'll
может вам
see
помочь
how
в
quick it
вашей
is, how
безопасности.
exciting it is, how much it can help you to have a
Познакомимся
secure
немножечко в
life.
Trino, посмотреть,
And
как его
then
готовить,
we'll have an
чем он
immersion in
может нам помочь,
Trino, what kind of
какой
beast it
количество
is, how you
количественных
cook
данных,
it, and how it can help us
и
with the
посмотрим
fast data
какие-то security
analytics.
кейсы,
And then we
как раз про
will
детали,
collect
которые
some
эта
security
конструкция
cases
помогает нам
that
быстро
flew through us
решить.
and that we
Про
can
что сегодня не
handle
будет?
with the
Сегодня
structure. What we are not
разминочный
talking about
трек
today,
и не
guys,
будет про Big Data,
because it is a
не
warm
будет
up,
про
we are not
High-Load,
talking
не
about
будет про
big
доступы,
data, no
зервирование,
higher
все вот
load,
это,
no access,
потому что для этого
and
следующие спикеры.
redundancies,
Не будет, наверное,
because the
практически
next speakers
про
will talk about
особенности
that.
планировщика
We
Трины.
will
Тоже для
not
этого
talk
следующие
about
профильные доклады.
the
Много умных дядек про это могут вам
stuff
рассказать.
that comes with Trino, and a
Я
lot of smart
про
guys will talk about that.
утилитарные
I
подходы
will
к
talk about
инструментам.
a very
Вот, и будем
utilitarian
сравнивать
approach
какие-то инструменты.
instruments. We are
Не
not
будем
going
тоже
to
заходить,
compare
посмотрим,
the
что лучше,
instruments,
что
the
хуже.
tools. Probably we will just have a
Вот, в
look
общем,
at
если
what's
вы
better, what's
security и вы
worse.
хотите
So
вкатиться в
if
тему,
you are a
правильное
security and you
место
want to
сегодня,
get
сейчас.
into
Если
the
вы
topic,
суровый
this is
дата-инженер
the
и хотите
right
узнать
place to be.
что-то
But
новое,
if you
наверное,
are a
сегодня этого
hardcore
не будет.
data engineer, probably you are in the
Дисклеймер.
wrong place.
Все
A
примеры
disclaimer.
в презентации вымышленные.
All
Если
the
вы видите что-то
examples
похоже на
are
вас, это
fictitious,
случайно.
any coincidences are accidental.
Подходы
If
по
anything
security
seems similar to you,
намеренно
that's a mere
гипертрофировано утилитарные, то есть мы
coincidence,
срезали
and everything is
большую часть углов,
hyper
которые
utilitarian.
вам
We
может
cut
показаться срезать не
corners
надо.
as much as
И
possible,
может у вас
and it
подгореть
might
от
seem
этого.
to you that
Простите, не
probably you
обижайтесь,
don't
если
want to
кого-то это
cut
заденет.
them and it can burn for you.
Вот, но
And
мемы не
sorry
смешные
if
для
we
любителя.
hurt you. And memes are intentionally
Погнали.
unfunny unless you are
Собственно,
really
да,
savvy.
сегодня такой
So
игровой
let's
вайб.
get started. Today we have a playful vibe,
В нашей игре
and
за security
in our
аналитика
game with the
три
security
уровня сложности.
analyst, there are three
Самый
levels
легонький
of
уровень
difficulty.
ну,
The
для
latest
малышей.
one is
Мы посмотрим, с
for the
чего вообще
babies, and we will
начинается
look
подход к этим
at
снарядам, откуда они
where
приходят к
is
доступу.
the approach
В эту
starts, how do
историю
people grow,
умника
and how it all comes
приходит
about in
уже
the
следующий
story, and
триггер
how then
состояние.
we move to the next
А
aggregate stage.
средненький уровень оставим на
That was the
конец.
level of
Немножко
can I
часть
play
доклада
dirty?
будет о
And
нем,
most of
но
talking will
все
be
найдем
about
сразу,
the
как начнем
middle level.
наши
But
эмоциональные качельки
then
в
from the
Helmo,
initial level,
где мы с
we'll
вами
go
огребем
to the
проблем дата-аналитики большого
Elmont,
enterprise,
where we will
посмотрим,
look
где это
at
дорого, где
the
это больно,
data analytics of a
посмотрим,
big enterprise. We'll
нужно ли
see
нам
where
это,
it hurts
когда задачи
and
такие
where
большие.
it is really expensive, and
А,
then we'll see where
собственно, как
the
говорил
tasks
еще
are not
много
so
дело,
huge. and
выбрать
intimidating. Like I said, we'll
начальный уровень,
start with
погнать.
the light mode. So
Стартует
we
наш
start with
персонаж в
the
небольшой
initial
организации.
level, and our character starts with a small
Немного отдельных
organization,
сервисов
and there
с
are
UI-ами,
several
выгрузками, дашами и
business
все то, что это
services
связано.
with their own dashboards and
Ну и
services,
метрики
and nothing is
состояния еще
connected
не
to
придумали.
anything,
Пока
and
вот не
the
до этого,
metrics of
пока нам
state
бы
are not
еще
around,
не развалиться.
and they're not even on the horizon. We
И
just want
другого
to
опыта у нас нету,
keep this
поэтому
business
мы
going,
разбираемся за всем
surviving. We don't have
базовыми
any
инструментами.
money, so it's a hodgepodge of different
Наш
business
персонаж
systems with their
с
own UIs,
навыками Excel
dashboards, and
и прокачанной
admins.
харизмой
And our
ходит
character
по
has a
кварталу
lot of
и, может быть, раз в
charisma
месяц по
and
разным
good
подразделениям,
Excel
админам и так
skills.
далее,
And
ищет выгрузки
once
тех
a
данных, которые
quarter,
могут
they
понадобиться в работе,
approach different
сводит
units
их в
and
гигантские
admins, and they
Excel,
look for the
ВПРы, сложные
um,
таблицы, все,
data,
чтобы
which they put together
превратить
in
какой-то красивый график
gigantic Excel
и
spreadsheets,
поднять
so
итоговое
as to
состояние, ну
make
и показать его
that
каким-то
all into a beautiful
высокоходящим.
dashboard and
Вот.
somehow to then show it
А
to their
с
bosses.
ростом
And
сложности у этого товарища
as
появляются всякие
the
легонькие удобряшки
complexity
в
increases,
рамках его
they add
компетенций. Где-то
some
это
more
всякие
convenient things
помощники
within
в
their
Excel, в
competences.
Apache,
They
большие
help
питоны,
us
чтобы где-то с
in
какой-то отдельной чего-то достать
Excel,
побыстрее,
in
чем это дает нам
Python,
админ
so
системы.
that
Ну и
we
как-то
get something
дочитать в
faster from
нужное
the
состояние.
admin of the system, and so
Все
that it looks a
достаточно
little bit
больно
nice and neater.
и
So it still hurts
выглядит
a lot,
нездорово.
and it
В общем,
doesn't look
по этому
healthy.
поводу у нашего товарища
So this is why
есть
our
проблемы в жизни
character
его.
has
У
issues
него
in
есть
life,
босс,
like
который начинает
they
хотеть
have a
аналитику
boss
почаще.
who
И
wants
все
more and
сложнее на
more
самом деле собирать
analytics,
эти
and it is getting
отчеты,
harder and
оперативно по
harder
какому-то вечернему
to
запросу.
get the
Приходится
huge
пойти клепать итоговое состояние,
reports
пропускать
when
дневной
they
сон.
get
Вот
a
это все,
query in the
наверное,
night,
вот
and they
знакомо.
have to pass on their sleep
Часть
and
данных,
work
которые у нас
overnight a
приезжают
lot.
из систем,
You are all
приезжает в
familiar
разное
with that.
время.
Some of the data
Одна
that we're
загрузка
getting from the
с утра,
systems get
другая
at different
вечером,
times.
третья задержалась
So some
попозже.
download happens in the
Одну
morning, the
секунду
other one in the
и
evening,
система
and then
лежала.
the next one probably
И они потом
was
перестают друг с
dropped
другом сходиться,
altogether
и нам
because
приходится
somebody
что-то
was on
выдумывать,
vacation,
дорисовывать,
or
чтобы итоговый
the
отчет у нас
system
был
was down, and then we
правдоподобен.
have to add something to it so that
Бас-фактор у
the
этого
ultimate
товарища
report
максимальный.
looks
Пожалуйста, кто
truthful,
знает, как
and
собрать
the
в следующем
bus
месяце эти
factor for
таблички,
this
графики
person
и
is
подать в
maximal.
начальству.
They are the only person who
И
knows how
вот
to
как
put
бы еще
together
один
those Excel spreadsheets and
фактор, за
submit
который у
them to
нашего
their boss.
персонажа
And this
убавляется
is
качество жизни,
yet another
премии, зарплат, потому
factor
что
that
нехорошо, когда
loses
на одном
them
человеке это все зависит.
the bonuses and also their
А,
lives, because it's not good when
Выглядит
everything
это
is
все
pegged to one
достаточно
single person.
несовременно,
It all looks
графика угловатая,
unmodern, the
ретросеттинг игры, когда
graphics
вот мы
are
все
poor,
вспоминали
and it's the
игры
retro setting
опыта
of
нашего.
the
В общем,
2000s when we didn't
находяемся
have any tools at
на
all.
этом уровне,
So we
мне
are
кажется, играть не
still
будем.
on this level
Погнали
sometimes,
дальше.
but we don't want to stay there.
Уже разобрались с
And
простыми
then
вариантами.
let's move forward. Now that
Сразу
we
же
understood the
перемещаемся
simplest
в
options, now
Hell Mode
let's move on to the hell mode.
и попадаем в
So what is a hell
огромный
mode?
орех
That's when we
Enterprise,
get
где у
into
нас
a huge big tech
что-то очень
enterprise
похожее на
where
вот
it
или Фан,
looks similar to
судя по данным, которые нам отдает игра.
Vought or Bought
А,
and
Со старта у нас
Funk,
бизнес
similar to
генерит
what we get
неимоверное
in a
количество
game.
данных.
From the very
Из этих
start, the
данных
business
принимать какие-то
generates
взвешенные
huge
решения.
amounts of data. We want to
Со
make
старта у
balanced
нас есть
decisions
ЖВХ,
based on
который эти
this this data. And we also have from the start the systems that are using good enterprise solutions, which were bought at some point, and now a whole bunch of engineers are supporting them that have the new ETLs, and they support them end to end. We also have lots of raw data, which then goes to our data warehouse, and we have lots of pipelines which prepare the data store for us, which then are presented to the top management and product systems, on the basis of which the balanced, well-considered decisions are made. The resources are infinite, and you can just amazed at how many people, resources, bioengineering is supporting this mechanism, how many esoteric practices are used to keep it going and together. And this is the basic issue. That's where we start. The pipelines start falling apart, and somebody changed the field because there was probably typo and the whole pipeline fell apart. Then the system that was supposed to provide the data during the night and all the pipelines that you wanted to put together were resisting. Everything is generated, and the pipelines are generated like a lot. And it's like in the old game where you had to catch all the eggs in the game, and the data gets in place at different times. So it's the same issue. And we have the same issue. The data arrives at different times because the pipeline gets to them at different times. Sometimes the data comes with a stream. Sometimes we get delays in the data pipeline, and it is hard to have in those data storefronts the consistency of what is born in our dashboards. The money runs out all the time because we have a lot of data, and we also have the data in the initial business system, then in the data warehouse, as well as in the data store. And so as a result, the data is replicated once or twice, and one and the same status can be kept up to 10 times in different parts of our domain. There are lots of engineers who are moving these things from one bucket to another. It's extremely expensive. And the data lake turns into a swamp. And the data that was there initially is really hard to somehow allocate by who wants them, who prepares them, and how reliable is the data. And probably no one has used the data for a year. And we see that VPS is slowing down, and we need more and more resources, and this whole structure lags behind, and it can not be done in a day. And so somehow putting all of those things together to sync them is not always possible. So when you look again at one more pipeline out of hell, we close down this level, and then again we go to the main menu.
А, Чего? Средний уровень.
So the
Там
middle
уже
level, what
было
it means
достаточно
is
скучно на базовом
that
уровне, и нам
we
было
were already
достаточно больно
bored at the basic level, and
на,
it really hurt
на heavy,
on
на hell
the
моде. Давайте посмотрим,
hell
можем ли мы
mode.
тут
So
нарезать
let's have a
кусочки
look at whether
и
we can
попробуем страдать.
cut corners somehow and stop
А,
suffering after all.
Для начала
So
поставлю вам в голову
to
саундтрек
begin with,
следующим уровнем.
this is
Если
the
у вас в голове
soundtrack
заиграло,
with the next
это
level.
отлично.
So if you
Вот, и
have
поехали дальше.
something playing in your head,
Цикловая
then
смена
that's
компонентов.
cool. That's what I wanted. And
Вот мы
it is
забаранить
a medium-sized
сюжетную
company,
связь за
and
security.
we're trying to speed run
Security у
the
нас
security part.
небольшие
And
данные.
the security
Практически везде у
means
нас
that we don't
системы.
have a lot of data. In
Данные
almost all the
помещаются
systems,
в
the
один
data
хост, в
can
одну
be fit
оперативную
into one host or one operational memory, and we don't have to think about distributing the workload probably everywhere, apart from the product logs and CM with the security events. And all the logs are in the ClickHouses and elastics, and somebody is making sure that we can interact with them. Everything else, all the events are in the CM, and we want to make sure that the data, which is quite compact, we can use our own data warehouse. We already have the data engineers who are working on the product stores in an adult way. But as a security, we will keep an eye on them. And that's it. We don't really want to get into the backlog because a task can get stuck there. And probably it doesn't look like a priority. And so
А мы все-таки тут
we don't
чтобы
want
делать мир
to
безопасным, а не варить ДВХ по
suffer over it. So we are about making this world a safer place rather than operate on a large DWH. We have some money, but not a lot. And
у обсеков была эффект даджа, они ее радостно подняли на старте своей
so what
токсичной
happened is
и
that
какое-то время
they
загружали в нее
had
репорты из различных сканеров, пока она стала плохо шевелиться. Есть проблема у этого ПО с тем, что очень
the issue
устойчивым
is that
самой даджи, когда она поживет с вами полгодика или годик.
so if you work with this for 6 or 12 months, you will get used to that. So it's not about migrating with it, but we can stop using it just as interfaces for everyday work and analytics about what's good, what's bad. And they want what we see is that there are AppSec tools, antiviruses, IDM, DLP scanners, and inventory taking. So the main idea is to make sure that we can handle everything that comes there. And then how do we draw this dash? And we have good big tools like Tableau.
помянем.
And it's no longer available, so we can just remember it, and then we can move to looking at the tools that are available to us, like open source Grafana, which helps us with drawing something in graphs, and it's about time series data and small spreadsheets that we can have in our room on our display, and we can see whether our systems are alive. It's a good thing, and we have not chosen it. We looked at that with our data scientists and analysts, and the superset works for them because it is open source and all the functionality is a default one for all the similar systems. And we have a cool thing there, and there is a certain editor where you could look at the scheme of data that you're using to select some data and to understand what you're working with, what you are dealing with, to put together the necessary data set the way you would do in Excel or some debeaver when you're trying to put it all together, and then at the end of the day have the result in the chart, and then in the dashboard where it will all be available. And so we are looking at how it all works. And now there is the target system that we want to use, and there is the solution that we have selected. And let's see how we can make sure that this data from our database gets into our superset. Our DWH engineers are telling us it's nothing. We're just loading your data into DWH, then we make a data store with a superset, and then you move it, or no, you move it from DWH, you move it to the click, and then you move it to the superset. And it somehow reminds us of the initial previous level where we suffered a lot. So let's try to throw all of those things away, and let's try to have this data warehoused directly in the superset. We can use the select to get everything we need. And in our case, we don't really have the need for the operation, well, the way.
Okay, so let's get closer to it. So we'll take the superset. In order to speedrun it, we can take a Docker. We put it up on the virtual base. We'll get in as default credentials. Maybe we'll remember at this point that we have to change them, and maybe not. Well, who knows? In any event, we will add our connections and the database that we can reach to, as far as security people can reach to them. Okay, it's Dojo, and we'll look later on which basks we have there. So basically, we added up the database. We have it now. It's right there in SQL editor right now. You can see it in the Superset interface, and we can click and see which tables we have in the base. Are there any delicious morsels, and how do we work with these tables in order to understand what it is that we need? All right, so if you have any SQL practice, at least if you started it at the university, you will click the correct selection perhaps in minutes or perhaps in hours. So these selected items will become a table. We save this table as a data set in the terminology of Superset. And then on the basis of data set, that is to say, on the basis of the tables that we've chosen and selected, we prepare a chart. It's either a pie chart or a table or a graph. Well, this is something that we will need later on. Okay, so we have the table, we have a few charts. We have some report, okay, that we need to provide. So we give to our guys the set of things they have to check, and the guys have a few buttons with some click actions that are responsible for different insecurities, right? Vulnerabilities, rather, so that if they have a vulnerability of sorts, they can pretty much get rid of it with one click. Just like in a Tinder, if you will. So we can look at the charts and see who had how many vulnerabilities. We can see the general workload. But basically, we stepped away from the Dojo interface into Dojo base. So the Dojo basically is left to our guys to provide some reports from the scanners. This was level 1. Okay, everybody was good, everybody was happy. So now we switch to the second level. So on the second level, our task was to create a dash on the vulnerabilities which perhaps present the most problem for us. The vulnerabilities which have POC, which have some keywords in their description. Maybe, just maybe, there are some trends in that, trends and vulnerabilities, that is to say, which make this vulnerabilities important to us. So we have 3 databases. The fleet database. So fleet is infra host compiler that puts together all the data that shows us what is moving in our environment. We have a deep track as the source of data for external components and external dependencies from the product services. And there is a CVE database which we are updating all the time, and it has a larger info about vulnerabilities. It's distributed on different layers. It has more detailed description. That is to say, this is something that gives us food for thought and food for work. So everything is all kind of connected. We want to bring it all into Superset, to merge it into Superset and to filter it out. Well, Superset by itself cannot do it. It dashes work based on different data sets, separate data sets. So it cannot rather by itself connect to data sets automatically. Okay, so we Googled it, and we saw that this problem actually can be resolved by Trino. Trino. Yeah, so what is Trino? What kind of a beast is that? Okay. Okay, next slide, please. So Trino is an
с одной стороны подключается
SQL
к
drive that, on the one hand,
разнотипным источникам данных, которые
can be connected to data sources of different type
что-то, что может нам отдавать данные.
that are supporting GBC connection. That is to say, something that can give us data in a tableized form with some kind of metrics. It supports a great source of different sources, a great number of sources, and I haven't seen all of them myself, but everything that I had to work with usually had
Собственно, с другой
what we
стороны,
need. Now, on the other hand,
итоговые данные в нас.
Trino gives the final data
Какой-то запрос.
to us. How is this done? We are sending a query. The query goes to Trino coordinator, that is to say, to its planning center. There is a query planner that sends them to a specific DB, then it brings the data from those, brings the raw data on the worker level. Worker is a different entity. Worker connects queries from different systems and on its side joins them together if it's logical that we should have them together, and basically provides to us the final data set, the resulting data set in a table format, as if we were requesting this specific data in that specific format. So all the details, all the types of data, of clicks, of SQL requests and so on, all of these formats are in Trino. It's under its hood. And for us, this is the basic SQL that we join to different catalogs and to different sources. So basically treat them as different separate tables of one unified database. So this is a great option. Looks like a workable plan. So we add Trino as an intermediary link to our kind of path of delivering data to Superset. Trino doesn't actually store anything. It receives data in real time, it calculates, and it gives its result to the Superset. So everything that passes through Trino is done online as caches, as kind of momentary storage, and we can really utilize very few resources in order to support this Superset-Trino construction within some feasible budget. If we talk about the base variant, it's very easy to do. We bring it to Docker on the same virtual management that Superset used to be on. We add on some configs to the databases that we want to use. The configs are as trivial as they were trivial when they were added to Superset as separate sources. Host address, credentials, and that's it, pretty much. Now the sources in the system later on are named according to the file names in the connections. So Dodge defect will then be accessible named as the file name. There is a special peculiarity here. In order to connect to a new source, we have to restart our host with Trino. It won't do it automatically. Yeah. I mean, there are options, there are rather variations of Trino which can do it automatically, but it's not such a big deal. It works 99% of the time. Then in the Superset, we add the source to the Superset. The Trino in the box is supported by the Superset, and in SQL lab we see the name of the list of catalogs. And in those catalogs, we see the database tables which we can work with.
Собираем себе селектик, в котором
So we put together a selected group
вехи, которые нам известны
which we
из дептрека, этот из
which we use, which we know on our perimeter. This is from the fleet.
и пересекаем их с датасетом с расширенным
And we cross them with the
по
dataset of enlarged info,
что выглядит как критичное.
from which we will filter out everything that looks critical to us.
Собирали дашек,
All right, so we're done with the dash. The dash looks good.
чтобы наш
We also put some alerts into it so that our info security guys will learn about the vulnerabilities as soon as they appear in the perimeter,
в Телеграме пишет,
rather than when a certain chat in Telegram tells the whole wide world that this vulnerability was used in order to get into your assets. Okay, so
на свой вкус.
we do the triage.
Нам кажется,
According to our taste, we choose issues which we think are problematic and leave things that we think can be put aside.
и очень небольшое количество.
Well, as you know, that a lot of these go into trash, and very few really go to the kind of to the doctor's table, so to speak, and are taken care of. Level 3.
У нас есть зацепленная база IDM с ролями пользователя.
So we have the IDM base with roles of users. We have some analytical base, and when we check the access rights, the guys say, well, okay, well, maybe we should check to what extent the department and the users really use their roles and their access rights. How needed are they for their work? Okay, they have requested that, true. Maybe they just requested them kind of, you know, on a rainy day, and they don't use them in their everyday work. Maybe. But let's check this hypothesis. Let's try to put together some roles and departments, look at their roles, look at their access rights, look at their permissions, look at their critical operations that they might use. The data is not very big. Everything, again, is in Trino. For now, we don't have information about which department does what and uses what. This thing is here in app logs, which has login, name of an operation that the user engages at a certain moment of time, and we try to cross this data. And we can't do it. Huh? Okay, why? Trino, okay, which was uploaded to our virtual measurement, did not basically did not become part of the data set because of a click. There are too many logins, and the basic virtual VM system basically doesn't hold it on. So we can draw some conclusions about the limitations of this construct. Okay, so using Trino, we cannot merge several data sets. Not merge, but rather cross, because in its basic config, which was free, open source, right, it is not possible, because these two big data sets have to be placed into the worker. That is to say, we cannot cross a small data set with a big data set. In order to give us a unified big data set, it will not have space in the intermediary SQL engine that we're using. The Trino will shut down basically due to lack of memory, due to lack of disk space, if we configure it disk-wise, so to speak. But there is a way to basically multiply workers and count them in a big cluster, but we don't want to do that because it kind of moves us closer to this very precarious condition when we played around the hard drives. But there is a way to optimize the queries to our data sets in order to, first of all, get some small amount of data, and secondly, to bring up the small data sets that we had in this example, that it's the list of rows and login information and credentials, to bring it up to the big data source and to basically make all the calculations over there. So the small data set will migrate to ClickHouse. The log and credentials tables will be right there, so that it will come back to us from there. And as a resulting piece of information, it will be small, and we'll be able to calculate all the info we need. Sometimes, in order to make this push down possible, we have to help our optimizer. The optimizer sometimes doesn't do it automatically, so we have to instruct it to take the data set X and to send it to the second system. So then we'll do a better job of it. Okay. So the final construct is a dataset from Steph and IDM, sending the result to the logs, and then get from the log the segregated condition that is later on passed over to the superset. So this is a workable construct. You can look at the hit counts and then do some analytics. Okay. A few DLCs very quickly. We can count the criticality of our product services based on the kind of subject matters that they process, that finances something else. And if we have the info about the vulnerability in the dojo, we can look at the head count of the services that demand our prioritized attention, because if the vulnerability costs more money, of course, it should be the first one to take care of. DLC2, from the CyberSex vulnerabilities, we can choose some specifics, ones which we do understand. Let's say LTE, basically too many privileges on the hosts. So this could be corrected right away as soon as we learn about the vulnerabilities, as soon as we learn about LPE. And the info about the system which has the info about the vulnerability will also have info about the jam hosts. DLP optimization. So basically this is the story which departments have data that they swap with the world. So we can look statistically at which departments have more of these relations, and we just can leave them aside, right? So that they would not push the structured data elsewhere. So we can again look at the staff and DLP and see which departments need optimization.
I believe this is all I wanted to really say. We have gone through all the storylines, and it is cheap to launch analytics in this construct. And this thing is good for those who are moving from the analytics of standalone systems and has not as yet grown to data warehouse and big structures. And it's easy to do ad hoc research because it's basic SQL, and we are not storing anything on our own. And then it's easy to measure what was good in the last quarter. And if the system doesn't have business data, then we will have to get closer to the data warehouse storage, and the overlap of data is not an issue for small resources. We can push complicated tasks to the systems which are storing big data, and we can use DWH as one of the sources, and heavy queries, heavy requests, you have to be cautious with them, and so you have to fine-tune your resources available for different accounts, and you have to choose readless servers out of the cluster so that you can calculate something. And I recommend those who want to grow from nothing this track, but those who have already grown could probably look back at what they have done. It is a Q&A time, and if you have a QR reader, then you can rate my presentation. And if you get to the questions in the online, I'm fully ready to support you in the Telegram. If you want to ask something, I'm here for you. Congratulations. Thank you. Thanks a lot to Dmitry. We have two mics here. If anyone wants to ask questions, then line up to ask questions. And okay. So, you said that Superset cannot handle heterogeneous questions. Have you checked the feature with Metabase, which ensures that you can do without Trino, although with the heavy queries it will be worse. A year ago, when we chose this construct, so it was back in 2024, right? And I wasn't able to tackle this with the Superset. This is why we moved to Trino as the data aggregator. I've got to check. Probably we could do it now. It could be cheaper, so that you don't use Trino if you have really small data. Yeah, probably we could try this out. Thanks for the comment. And the tip. Thank you very much. We cannot hear you properly. Thank you for your presentation. I have this question. Am I wrong when I believe that the modern code generation will handle building the dashboards for the end users much faster and without a Superset? I have the example of working with compliance, and those guys not very much into SQL, and they using ChatGPT and DeepSeek. They feed them with data. They prompt what they want to get the outcome. They get the ultimate select. Then they check it out in the SQL lab as something that is good for them. And then they use the virtual assistant. Probably at some point it will work like this, that I will give to ChatGPT PHP or somebody, some other agent, just the scheme, and the user can use the chat to talk to the system. This is a great thing, and I would like to go into this. And what exactly do you mean? And it's not just about SQL requests, but also graphs, and generate not just SQL queries, but also probably HTML pages, something like that. And I believe that via the LM agents, we can put together the structures where we will feed the data, everything we have in our space, and then we'll have SQL, and then the superset or something else that we will have there, and this will come from the future. And as the result, through this combination of agents, we will have the ultimate dash that will help us with talking in a text mode with ChatGPT. This is the future that is coming soon. Talking about that, the superset, you can use the dashboards, and if the neural network can work with that, then yes, you can import those. Make some JSON and then import it to a superset. Hi, I'm Alexey Kryukov from Azbuka Vkusa, a retailer, food retailer. Despite the issues that you showed, do you really regret that you didn't give it to a DWH team? And what does the DWH team say about those tools that you are using? You're taking away their workload. We are not sorry about that, because we use the upper stack for being autonomous, for being standalone. All the analytics are in our resources, and we can forecast ourselves the time in which the new analytics will happen. For me, this is the main reason why we are probably cheaply or in some other way, but we are doing it in-house. And so far, we can do without external resources. Definitely, we will grow, and we will work with those guys to keep something big. But so far, to speed runs and to address issues as they arise. For us, it is dramatically cheaper to have it in-house. And the guys in DWH, they're happy about that. We are in sync with them in their stack. It will be easy to migrate because they have the same clicks and supersets. And then going into a joint platform together won't be all that expensive. No more questions from the floor. Thank you.